We call the work Intimate Transactions because it's about the possibility of developing a sense of intimacy with someone else across a network when you can't actually ever see that person or hear that person.
By asking one to actively engage in their bodies, hopefully one is connecting to their representation of their avatar.
Experience in intimate transactions is the ability for you to feel it.
It's a work about shifting balances, it's a work about ecology, ultimately it's a work about relationship and collaboration. Intimate Transactions is a dual-site, networked installation for two people. Now these two people might be in two different cities or two different countries or in two rooms of the same venue. What's, I think, different about it from many other works is that you never see that person and you never hear that person. You only ever get the effects of that person coming across the network. Intimate Transactions is a project that the Transmute Collective have worked on now for over 4 years.
I train in a physical discipline called the Suzuki Active Training Method, which is similar to a martial art where the performer is asked to concentrate all their energy onto what we call their body centres. One of my roles in creating Intimate Transactions was to look at the placement of the person's physical body within the work. We looked at designing an interface that could support the body in a comfortable yet quite unusual position.
So instead of using your hand, a mouse, keyboard, you in fact use your body. You use your feet and your back to interact with the work. The work has a haptic component which consists of a device that sits on your stomach and also devices that sit in the back of the body shelf. As the experience unfolds, you start to feel vibrations that have been passing across the network from the other person, and you get a sense of a real embodied sense from the work. So you're using your back, you're using your feet, and you're feeling vibrations.
My experience as a performer and dancer has informed the way that I design audio to try and create motion. The configuration of the audio environment in Intimate Transactions is a surround environment using 8 speakers and 3 audio actuators that are in contact with your body physically. It moves you, it is actually touching you via the use of actuators, via the use of the air around you and subsonic frequencies. It's a very unique and distinct experience.
The work has 3 major components. The first is about welcoming the person into the space. We bring the person into the space, we adjust the body shelf for them, and then before the work starts, there's a short video that plays that gives them information.
You have just begun the Intimate Transactions experience. Someone in another place is doing the same thing right now. You are connected together and standing on identical body shelves. Both you and this person will experience your own world of unusual creatures. You can take things away from your creatures, but in order to return these, you must interact with the other person. At different times in the work, you are represented by either this body or the circle.
By moving their back around the space, they can investigate the images in that space and the sounds. They can choose to take those images if they want and embody them in their own character. When they return back to the creature space, they'll find that everything they've done has had some effect on that space. And importantly, everything they've done has had an effect on the other person's space too. Now, if each person just goes around taking these objects, these images from the creature, then they'll find the whole world will slowly break down. So to restore states of balance in the work, what each person has to do is to transact with the other person across the network. You go through the process of returning objects that you've taken from the creatures back to those creatures. Okay, so these are the goals at the moment, I suppose. We've got to make new amps to equalise. The work was instigated probably about 4 years ago with 2 pilot projects. The first project was the dual site interactive performance with an online component. So there are audiences in 2 different locations, England and Australia, and also on the internet. We then went on to make a work called Transact Flesh, Skin and Bone. And that was an interactive video installation which used an ecological metaphor to form the interface. They became influencing factors in intimate transactions, which was really in 2 phases.
The first Bodyshelf asked the participant to do almost a sequence of movement to navigate through the work. So there were right and left kind of foot pads that they had to work. There was back pads that they had to work, and also they had red and yellow gloves on. We also had a motion capture device in play. And they literally had to kind of learn a sequence of events to move up and down through this work.
I saw how it would become more and more satisfying as all the movements just became intuitive.
I like interactive works that don't give you what you want, you know, what you expect.
And we used the feedback of that work to go on to develop Intimate Transactions, the final work, which has now been shown. One of the really interesting collaborations on this project has been between the discipline of performance and the discipline of interaction design, new media arts. What we've done is work with principles of choreography and movement and translated those not only into the design of the body shelf, but also the way in which the creatures work and the structure of the work itself. So I think there's real potential here for dancers and choreographers to have a really major part to play in the organisation of interactive space.
And there's something lovely about expanse, and there was also more of an invitation to do this.
A really basic relationship that is completely devoid of all this. And this kind of fiddle. You know, so that's very nice.
Certainly what I'm interested in is taking this interface and using it as the basis for new works, adapting it and changing this interface and working with the ideas of the moving body in space. Also very interested in the idea of creating networked works, works that are distributed across the network and are highly relational. So a lot of the things that we've discovered in this work about how to put those sort of things together we're going to take into the future for a range of new works.
In any sense.